With the Flash movie finally releasing years after Ezra Miller was first cast, and with the Flash TV show starring fan favorite Grant Gustin coming to a close, there's no better time to take a closer look at the powers and abilities of each version of the Flash to determine who would win in a furious battle of speed and power. As with all these versus battle videos, I will only be referencing stories that are canon to the specific versions of the characters we're using. For the DC Extended Universe Flash, I will be using Zack Snyder's Justice League, as it was the confirmed canon version of the character in his most recent outing. So with all that said, let's begin in the DC Extended Universe.
Stop right there. I'm in.
Barry Allen first gained access to the Speed Force in the early 2010s, and while he wasn't very good at using his powers for a long time, he tried to help people when he could. Seeing the destruction of Metropolis by the alien invader Zod, he ran in to help, however was overwhelmed by the power of the World Engine and could only save one child. This moment stuck with Barry, who realized he needed to practice and become a master of the Speed Force if he was going to help anyone. So he began working on a new suit and started mastering his abilities in his spare time. Eventually, he was recruited into the Justice League by Wonder Woman and Batman. While part of the team, Batman took the young Barry Allen under his wing and helped him to master his powers. The Justice League was assembled after the death of Superman to stop the invasion of Steppenwolf. While the Flash wasn't a powerhouse, his incredible speed was useful in various battles in their quest to stop the alien invader. Realizing they were not strong enough to stop Steppenwolf, the Justice League decided to resurrect Superman, who returned not all there. In this battle, the Flash accidentally runs into and knocks over Aquaman, who was charging at Superman at the time. This is an incredibly impressive feat, as Aquaman is roughly Wonder Woman levels of power. Wonder Woman does about as well as Superman in their initial battle against the monstrous Doomsday, and to determine Aquaman and Wonder Woman's power, we would need to first figure out how strong that Superman was prior to his resurrection. In between Zod's attempted terraformation of Earth and Lex Luthor's plans to kill the Man of Steel, Superman performs one of his greatest feats, preventing an earthquake by shifting a tectonic plate. Using a median calculation provided by Comic Books vs. the World, we are able to determine that this tectonic plate weighed roughly 24 quintillion tons, and Superman generated just over 24 teratons of energy while doing so, making him country level by this time, meaning his punches generate enough power to destroy a country. Now, I'm not saying the Flash is as strong as Aquaman, Wonder Woman, or pre-resurrection Superman, but knocking over Aquaman while he was jumping in to attack Superman is still incredibly impressive. To get a little bit more precise with the Flash's power, we can take a look at his most recent adventure where he traveled back in time and battled Zod and his Kryptonian army. In this battle, Barry claims that he is not strong enough to kill Kryptonians, but he and his younger self figure out a way to do so. By running, they generate a ton of power through the Speed Force, which the Flash's suit typically dissipates for him. However, once he removes the gloves and gauntlets of his suit, he can harness this incredible energy and send it out in a blast of lightning that is able to kill Kryptonian warriors. Keep in mind that the Kryptonians were in their suits and were not able to absorb the light from the sun, which would have empowered them further. While in their suits, Kryptonians are calculated to be able to output and endure up to 100 kilotons, or enough power to destroy a small town. Flash, after generating enough Speed Force energy, can fire blasts relative to this level. As for speed, the Flash is stated to be the fastest being on the planet, even faster than Superman, who the Flash was holding back against, at least in terms of speed, throughout the Justice League's first team-up. As he has one rule, which he placed on himself, as when he travels far beyond the speed of light, he messes with time. If he runs far beyond light speed, he can literally reverse time or travel back in time at will. In his battle against Zod, the Flash shows us that without much effort, he can travel back in time, altering the timeline infinitely. And he can even travel through the multiverse by utilizing the Speed Force. As for other skills and abilities, the Flash can phase through objects, which he can use for attack or defense. He can phase through attacks or phase into another person to kill them, which he does against Kryptonians as well. He can create tornadoes powerful enough to toss around Zod's Sword of Ra warriors. He can, as previously mentioned, fire off incredible blasts of Speed Force lightning. He can create after images of himself, which can act as decoys. He has a regenerative factor that allows him to recover from the brink of death almost instantly, and is stated to regenerate as fast as he moves, although the Flash film is pretty inconsistent with the speed in which his past version of himself recovers, but that might be due to his inexperience with the Speed Force. While working alongside Batman, he learned to attack without harming his body, as before he could break his own hands if he attacked at super speed. So now his punches are strong enough to knock out Kryptonian warriors. Now, as I dropped off watching the CW Flash after Season 3, I've brought in friend of the channel, Ty Learn, to help us out.
Now, CW Flash, unlike its DCEU counterpart, has much more time on screen and has been able to show off his various powers and just what he can do. Not only can bro obviously run fast, but Barry is able to manipulate wind, lightning, phase through objects, and shows off his ability to use speed way more than the DCEU Flash does, since he has 9 seasons of 20 plus episodes with each being over 40 minutes long. So obviously he's gonna have a lot more showings than Ezra, but how fast is the CW Flash actually? Now, this is where it gets a little tricky, because you see in some seasons where Barry is reacting to lightning, but then being stated to be sub Mach 1. And then we have calcs of him being at relativistic to even massively faster than light speeds. This is due to him being able to get into a portal before it closes in less than a picosecond, but then after becoming way faster, gets blitzed by light rays that don't even move at light speed. These rays slash blasts, by the way, are apparently 80 times faster than Barry's top speed, which is probably the biggest anti-feat going for this version of the Flash, and to that I say it's inconsistent, as again we have at least even season 1 Barry perceiving lightning as slow motion, to even reacting to lightning being emitted from Iris's body to protect Nora moving at relativistic speeds, and as I said earlier is able to get through the Thinker's portal before it closes. Although very inconsistent, I feel like Barry has enough feats to say that he's faster than light than to say that he isn't. However, again, this version of Barry's speed is very inconsistent, and honestly you can probably have the interpretation that this man isn't even at these speeds. Now, as for his immeasurable speed scaling or being fast enough to travel through or reverse time, this is where things are much more complicated. Barry going through time has also had context behind it, which kind of invalidates his ability to run fast enough to reverse time whenever he wants. He doesn't just move through time in the show, that's not really how it works, and the only people who argue this are legit the ones who ignore the show's context or barely even watch the show in the first place and just want to wank the Flash. The best speed scaling I can grant Gustin, see what I did there, is him being able to move faster than the Thinker's portal would close, which closes in less than a picosecond, and this feat has been calculated to be from 40 to even 50,000 times the speed of light. Now, as for how strong this Flash is, well, we see as early as season 2 Barry is able to shoot a lightning bolt which can generate over 1 megaton of TNT, which would put Barry's AP in the city level range. This honestly is the highest I can give Barry's AP, as normally he's getting smacked around and overpowered by guys like Gorilla Grodd and King Shark, and although I said this earlier for speed, this also applies to AP, has a lot of anti-feats. And as I mentioned earlier, Barry has an insane number of abilities, from after image creation to phasing to lightning blast and even lightning sabers, bros in Star Wars. While there are dozens of abilities Barry has, he typically uses these abilities once and never does it again when it would be incredibly useful. For example, his speed thinking. He's extremely powerful, but his biggest issue is inconsistency.
My name is Barry Allen, and I am the fastest man alive. I am the Flash.
So now that we've discussed the powers, speed, and abilities of each Flash, who wins? Well, you might think the experience of the CW Flash would put him on top, but each have about the same time spent as the Flash. However, the CW Flash did have a mentor earlier on who assisted with his growth tremendously. By the end of the CW show and the release of this movie, I'd say they're probably about relative and overall mastery of the Speed Force, despite the fact that CW Barry is shown using more abilities. The CW Flash is also slightly stronger than the DC Extended Universe version, so if it came down to just throwing fists, CW Flash would come out on top. However, the DCEU Flash is much, much faster, as he is able to break the speed formula whenever he wants with no conditions. I hate when these battles come down to just pure speed, but this is the Flash we're talking about after all. One of the two is faster than the other and has the means to end the fight anytime he wants to. While DCEU Flash constantly holds back in speed, as we see in his battles against Superman, Steppenwolf, and the Kryptonians, when he realizes his opponent is fast enough to somewhat contend with his faster than light speed, he amps it up to the point where they can't even perceive him. The sort of raw warriors were able to tag younger Barry, but when they decided to fight all out, the two Flashes speed blitz the Kryptonians completely. This would be a similar scenario in my opinion. DC Extended Universe Flash would see how close the other Flash is to him in speed, then amplify his speed to eclipse the other. So I have to give it to the DCEU version, despite the fact that they would actually just hug it out and probably just get some coffee together. So that's who I have winning, the DC Extended Universe Flash. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Also, thank you to Ty Learn for coming on and helping with this video. Go check out his channel and give him some love as well. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Remember, like, subscribe. It does really help us out. And remember the motto, it's the Flash over everything. And I'll see you guys next time.